Day 10, week 3 of the Donald Trump criminal trial. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Karen Friedman Agnifilo, who is leading our coverage here on the Midas Touch Network on behalf of Legal AF of the Trump criminal trial for falsification of business records regarding the 2016 election. The last day of court was on Tuesday. There was no court on Wednesday, and on trial on Tuesday, we had some testimony from a guy named Gary Farrow, who worked at a bank that was used to make the hush money payments. We heard from a C-SPAN archivist, a deposition court reporter as well, who had to authenticate videos and records because Trump and his defense team refused to stipulate to the authentication of videos and records and statements that Donald Trump himself made. So they made the prosecution bring in like actual witnesses to authenticate videos of Donald Trump and deposition testimony of Donald Trump. And earlier in the day, the bank records as well, which I think actually made things worse for Donald Trump because you had all of these people here just reinforcing the evidence over and over again, rather than turning it over to the jury. Like the jury kind of watching this would be captivated by hearing Donald Trump in a speech, and the C-SPAN archivist have to call it up where Trump denies all of the allegations regarding any of the women who he was linked to back in 2016, and hearing Donald Trump in deposition portions. And so we had that. And then we had really, though, the second major witness, the first major witness being David Pecker, who used to lead AMI, the parent company of the National Enquirer, which initially entered into the catch and kill deal with Cohen on behalf of Donald Trump, and talking about how all of that went down and went into detail about all of the specifics there. And then the other big witness, Keith Davidson, who's the lawyer who represented both Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels. And he was able to explain first the deal with AMI, then dealing with Michael Cohen, how that all went down, the dealings with Michael Cohen originally, the dealings with AMI, the dealings with David Pecker, text messages contemporaneously. It really painted a picture of what was going on at that time. Keith Davidson is still on the stand. He will be testifying more today. But Karen, the proceedings will start, of course, momentarily with a contempt hearing where additional violations of the gag order were brought to the court's attention that were made by Donald Trump. More statements he's made about witnesses, and another statement he made about the jury, which we flagged on our coverage at the Midas Touch Network. We were one of the first outlets, if not the first, to break that news. So that will be heard by Justice Merchan in the morning. Let me turn it over to you, Karen. Yesterday, you and I did a really in-depth legal AF. Michael Popak was off for the day, and so I would tell people to go back, watch our legal AF on the live feed where you and I did a little over an hour on what was going on to date. We did a whole recap, which we're not going to do here. But if you want to hear a whole recap of where we are on day 10, just go search the live feed here on the Midas Touch Network. Make sure you hit subscribe, by the way. It's free to subscribe to this channel. Karen, what should we expect today, starting with the contempt hearing?
Yeah, so today we are going to have another hearing where the people are going to prove to the judge, hold a hearing, that Donald Trump violated the gag order 4 other times. So just to sequence things, there was a motion. They've done 3 orders to show cause. 2 of them were heard before and ruled on before. They were with that. And after that hearing, though, there were 4 more violations. And that's what the hearing that we're having the subject of today is. Now, before the break on Wednesday, on Tuesday morning, the judge ruled on those first 10, and he found that Donald Trump violated the gag order 9 out of the 10 times, that the people met their burden beyond a reasonable doubt and held him in criminal contempt, and that's a big deal. So the fact that they're having yet another hearing where the people are going to try and establish these 4 other violations, that's what's happening today. And this is not normal. Just FYI, Ben, these contempt hearings and holding defendants in contempt. A friend of mine, Judge Michael Obis, who was the chief administrative judge of New York County, he's retired now for, I don't know, 30 years or something. He was a judge. He will say he has never had a contempt hearing. He's never held anyone in contempt. It's very rare. It's not like on TV or in the movies where, it just kind of happens all the time in court, right? This is a very respectable profession that we are in, and most people typically adhere to that. So the fact that this is happening is unusual, and it's a big deal that Donald Trump has been found to have willfully violated the gag order 9 out of 10 times, and you're going to see a hearing today about the last 4. Now, I don't think that the judge is going to rule right away. He took his time last time because he really carefully considered each one on its own individually. That's why he only found 9 of the 10. He didn't just kind of lump them all together. He really took his time and considered the evidence against each one of them. And if you recall at the last hearing, Todd Blanche really seemed to be caught with his pants down. He was unprepared. And he started making arguments that the judge said, "You're losing credibility with the court, Mr. Blanche." And it's apparently caused a rift with, it's been reported, with Donald Trump and his lawyers, who he clearly wants Todd Blanche to be more aggressive. But look, Todd Blanche tried doing what Donald Trump wanted and making these ridiculous arguments. And the judge handed him, handed him back his hat and basically said, "You're losing credibility with the court. You can't do that." And Todd Blanche is a real lawyer. He's a good lawyer. I don't think he's going to do any more of that, even though Donald Trump wants that done, because your credibility matters. You're an officer of the court first and foremost before you represent any client. And you're not there to just do what they want you to do. You obviously have to zealously advocate for them, but you can't make stuff up or make up arguments that make no sense. So I think you're going to see a slightly chastened, more well-prepared Todd Blanche now that he knows what the judge wants at these hearings, now that he knows that the judge is going to handle these individually. If his defense is going to be that Donald Trump was posting these things in response to something, which is what he said at the last one. Okay, show me the individual comment or tweet or posting that this was a response to. And things like that. So I think you're going to see a slightly better defense at this particular order to show cause hearing today. And then they'll get on with the trial. Then you'll see the witness, Mr. Davidson, who was the lawyer, as you said, who represented both Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels. You're going to see him back on the stand. The transcripts from the day came out late last night, and reading those transcripts, I was able to see that there was he did really well. The direct went really well, but toward the end, there seemed to be something that happened that seems to have caught the prosecutor by surprise, or something didn't go as he wanted. The prosecutor's Josh Steinglass. He's an excellent lawyer. He's senior trial counsel. And he was sort of fumbling with getting a piece of evidence into the record. So either the witness didn't answer the questions the way he had expected, or something went wrong that I'm not sure was obvious to anyone else, but a lawyer reading the record or anyone sitting in court, the lawyer, you'd pick up on the fact that didn't go exactly as he wanted. So I expect Steinglass to clean that up, whatever that was, and really kind of continue on with that testimony that is all about him talking about selling these stories, right? The Karen McDougal and Stormy Daniels stories right before the election, that this was all election related, that this was the timing of the election, that and he also corroborates, this lawyer corroborates the fact that what Pecker said about how AMI walked away from paying for the Stormy Daniels affair because they got stiffed by Trump before, right? That they didn't get paid back when he paid off the doorman and Karen McDougal, and so that instead the lawyer was dealing directly with Michael Cohen, who became the facilitator of this catch and kill story about how it was all heating up right before the election, that this was right after the Access Hollywood tape came out. And so I think you're going to hear more of that. This witness does not appear to be a fan of Michael Cohen's. I think he called him pants on fire. He said every time you talk to Michael Cohen, he's breathless and really intense, and everything's urgent. And so he's, again, I think that's really effective, because you don't want the jury, you want the jury to have very low expectations of Michael Cohen. By the time he testifies, they're going to know that they're going to know everything. They're going to know that he used to work for Donald Trump, that he was Donald Trump's attack dog, that he had a colorful personality, all of that. There's not going to be any surprises the time Michael Cohen testifies, which is what you want. You want him corroborated 12 ways to Sunday. So you're going to see more of that. Then you're going to see the cross examination of this witness, which I think is going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. He is a little bit of a, he definitely dealt in this world of NDAs and porn stars and all that. So I think you're going to see an interesting cross of him, and we'll see if they get anywhere with him. I don't know. So I'm very, very interested to seeing the cross of him, because this is a very substantive witness. And I think after that, you're going to see more of these records type witnesses, because the case is being unnecessarily delayed by, I would say, at least a week, because the defense is not stipulating to these basic records witnesses. So that's what I expect to see today. But that's what I'm really looking at, is to see where they get on cross-examination, if anywhere, with this witness.
Karen, I was reading the end of the transcript too, and I have some notes that I took as well. And Adam Klasfeld was in the court as well. I remember taking the notes when he was writing this. I'm not sure if this moment that you're talking about, but this was a question that I had as an observer from the testimony that Keith Davidson gave. Keith Davidson said what was being testified to by Davidson after doing this deal for the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, the payment was not taking place at the timing that it should. And Davidson and Stormy were like, where's my money? Where's my money? And Davidson thought that basically Cohen and Trump were trying to push it until after the election was over, perhaps even to stiff them and then not pay them, was one of the things that Davidson said. So Davidson said that he believed that Cohen didn't have the authority to send the money. Quote, I let him know that Stormy Daniels' level of dissatisfaction was quite high. Then Cohen said, God damn it, I'll just do it myself, according to Davidson. Question, did you ever believe that Michael Cohen was going to be the ultimate source of the funds? Answer, never prior to funding, no. Question, where did you understand the money to be coming from? Answer, from Donald Trump or some corporate affiliation thereof. And then, Karen, the money ultimately was paid through a shell company that was created by Michael Cohen, and that's how the payment was made. And then I think later on, we're going to see the checks that were then made right from Donald Trump to then reimburse Michael Cohen for those payments that were made. In my view, hearing that testimony and knowing that in a little bit, we're going to see the check signed by Donald Trump to Cohen, that closes that gap right there. But if you don't know that yet, right, if you're the jury and you haven't yet seen that Trump then reimburses Cohen, do you think that if you're the jury, you may be thinking, is there a missing link there? And is that the part that you think the prosecution or do you think that comes off more credible that Davidson was saying that he never believed that Cohen was the one who ultimately had the authority to send it in the first place? And, and then ultimately he thought the source was going to come from Trump, not Cohen. And then it came from the shell company created by Cohen. We know that the whole point of the falsification, right, is when Trump then pays Cohen back and then calls that legal expenses, when in fact that was the reimbursement for the hush money payments that were made. But that was the point there, though. If you don't know that last step, you may go, uh-oh, is that what's going on with that? What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to be the whole defense, right? And that's what they're going to say is this was all, they're going to say Michael Cohen would have, I think someone testified he'd throw himself in front of a bus for Donald Trump, right? That someone else called him a sycophant, that he was obsessed with Donald Trump, that he would do anything for him, and that this was all him trying to impress him. And it was only after he didn't get a job in the administration or whatever it was that he turned on him. And now, now he's making his livelihood, or whatever, hating Donald Trump, right? And coming out against him. And so the defense is going to just make this all about Cohen and Cohen paying it. And you never talked to Trump. You had nothing to do with Trump, and, all that kind of stuff. And there's a defense there, right? They're going to, but that's why Pecker was so critical, because Pecker was like, no, I'm friends with Trump. I talked to Trump. I was there when we devised this scheme to do it. This was all about helping him with the election. That's what Pecker, I think, is going to come. I think he's the most important witness in this whole case, to be honest, so far at least. But I think he might turn out to be the critical witness in this case. So it was smart for the prosecution to call him first. I thought he did really well. But let's see how the attorney holds up and whether they can really distance Trump from this transaction and make it all about Cohen. That's what I think that the cross is going to be all about.
Well, and then though, the break in that chain, though, ultimately, and where Cohen's testimony gets fully corroborated is with everybody else. What Pecker said directly corroborates Cohen. Then the documentation, the checks being paid to Cohen with Trump's signature, right? That corroborates Cohen. Donald Trump at the time praising Cohen. We saw that C-SPAN footage that was introduced. Trump saying how great Cohen was, as Cohen was doing that. The audio recordings of Cohen speaking to Donald Trump. So everything that Cohen said is corroborated somewhere. When you hear that testimony there, to me, it actually makes everything Cohen says more credible, because ultimately, once you then see the checks that were then paid to Cohen for this in the amount grossed up to factor in the taxes as well, plus the payment, I think that becomes your final aha moment. And then Pecker says, I talked to Trump about Cohen and what Cohen was doing for you on Stormy. And Trump's response, according to Pecker, was, yeah, I'm going to take care of Cohen. You don't worry. Cohen's running medallions, but I'm going to take care of him. And then they tried to cross Pecker on that and say, are you sure he used the term, thanks for this and McDougal? Are you sure he said Cohen? Are you sure he said these names? Could we didn't see some of the stuff in the prior reports specifically. Are you sure? And Pecker's like, look, I can't tell you why in a prior interview the person may not have included this fact or that fact. Pecker said, I know what happened. I know the story. I know what went down. This is what went down. And Karen, I thought that was a powerful moment, also corroborating everything, that Cohen had said. Anyway, we'll keep everybody updated on what's happening in today's proceeding. We'll see you right after trial concludes, and we will be with you each step of the way. Karen, it's always an honor to get your perspective here, and we will see everybody back shortly. Keep checking in on the Midas Touch YouTube channel for updates throughout the day. Shout out to the Midas Mighty. Shout out to Legal AF. Have a good one.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.midastouch.com. That's store